You and I have had a lot of like back and forth on this topic. So I just want to get it all out there and it might help somebody. We might confuse everybody. I don't know what's about to happen. We have always went through amps that we want and thought, I want this in a head, I want this in a combo. But when you come down to let's talk about strictly your two rock situation. All right? Because you said you want a two rock.
Yeah, I do.
You've got like this compulsive disorder where you want a two rock.
I went and played that 2-rock at Carter's. I am still beating myself up. If we want to get into the subject one day of gear I should have never left the store without, oh my gosh, that is number one on the list for me.
So I just want to talk in general, and this could be for you out there if you have a different amp, but I'm talking about you with your two rock.
Okay.
All right. Should you buy a combo or a head? Here are my pros and cons of each.
I'm still thinking about that 2-rock. What did you say?
So, two rock, obviously their heads are amazing, right? You can situate whatever cab you want with it. Ultimate pristine clean, fantastic big sound. Head and cab to me is the most user friendly when you go gig to gig, especially you have a 1x12 with it. If you have a 2x12, no one really nowadays ever needs a 4x12.
I disagree, but go ahead.
Anyways, 1x12, 2x12, cool. All right, you can get a bunch of different sounds. You can even, if you got a 2x12, have different speakers in there. To me, with a head and a cab, you don't have as much. It almost feels like it's not constricted. You don't have it sharing the same enclosure. It can be on its own. You don't have the tube rattle as much, right? A head and a cab, while you'll have to carry two separate things instead of one big thing, a head and a cab makes more sense if you want flexibility and if you want more options for a full or smaller sound. Also, if you don't want that rattle. A combo is really useful when you want to grab and go amp. It's all encompassing. If you're trying to limit the amount of carries you have to the gig, like a combo makes sense. The reason why I wanted to talk about two rock is because their combos are a little bigger than normal. So they don't sound quite as boxy as a typical, let's say, a Vox AC15, right?
Yeah.
Or a Blues Junior, a head and a cab usually is a bigger sound. But I think with this two rock combo, it might be a little different and it might be just as big sounding. I feel like a combo is more user friendly. Like I said, without as many carries, I feel like it is more practical for probably musicians that play locally. But it's not as flexible. Do you feel like that's pretty much how you feel? Is there anything else I missed? Like, when would you buy a combo? When would you buy a head and cab? And what are you thinking with this two rock?
Okay, so I think you hit a lot of good points in there. When would I buy a head and when would I buy a combo? I think, honestly, guys, it comes down to the amp. I don't want a Tweed head and combo. Or head and cab. I want a Tweed Deluxe in a combo. I don't want a Deluxe Reverb in a head and separate cab. I wouldn't want a Marshall in a combo, personally. I would want it in a separate head and cab. I think that's where they live the best.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever it's classic moves like that, I think it's a little easier to pick.
I have a Vox AC15 head and cab.
Yeah.
I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
And it sounds classic to me.
Yep.
Do you think I should have went with a combo?
Nope.
You're not making sense then.
Okay. The reason why is for your gigging and what you do, hauling around an AC30 2x12, because his AC15 is a head and cab, but it's a head and 212 cab.
It is.
Because you wanted the larger sound, the larger space, and everything to fill the room. That completely makes sense. But you didn't want A, the volume of the AC30, and B, if you got the AC30 in the combo, that thing is a beast to haul.
I would never get an AC30 combo. It would either be the AC15 combo, and that's still going to be heavy on its own, or the head and cab.
Yeah. So for what you done there, that kind of it's almost. Would you prefer the sound of the AC30 in a 2x12 combo? I think yes, but I think out of practicality sense, you're like, dude, I should buy the AC15 head and 212 cabs separately, and then also you can mix and match with some of your other heads and different things you've got going on.
Yeah.
But your main reason for it is I want to gig this thing. I want to take it out and use it. Just like you don't want to carry a blues breaker, a 2x12 blues breaker everywhere you're going,
Yeah.
or a Fender Super Reverb. Like, yeah, of course you're going to get the head and cab for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that falls. I don't
Okay.
think you're silly for doing that. I think that's a practical choice when ultimately in your head you know that how if I could really pick and somebody, a roadie was moving it, I'd get an AC30 combo.
I was about to say, if you're out there getting an AC30, power to you. You probably got arms like a python.
No lie. So for me, I think there's the classic moves like that I think
Okay.
it's pretty easy to pick.
Okay.
I think it gets complicated when you get into some of these things. Like we're talking about this 2-Rock, and yes, Dumble's made combos and Dumble made head and cab separate. And I think he designed them to fit different. Not to say 2-Rock is just like Dumble, because it's a different thing.
It's a totally different sound. Yeah.
But 2-Rock also designed it to work well both ways. I do think the 2-Rock combos are very room filling, and I don't think they sound like a small boxy combo.
No, they don't.
For me, I like the idea of the 2-Rock head and cab personally, because I like the flexibility of maybe I want a 212, maybe I want a 112, and I might have both so I can take them on different gigs. I can try it out on some different speakers and things. I started thinking about that Z-Rec that I was looking at the other day, and I'm like, well, they've got the combo, and I've played one of the combos, and it was great. It wasn't real boxy sound, it was very big sounding. But then I think, yeah, but if I had that head, and I had the 2-Rock head, maybe I get the Z-Rec with a 112 cab, and I've got the 2-Rock with the 212 cab, and I can switch accordingly and try different combinations of the cabs. Not to say they're made perfectly for each other, because they're not.
They wouldn't be, no.
And I'm definitely a fan of getting the cabinet that matches the head, because it's voiced for it. But sometimes switching things up is interesting. So for me, when it comes to the 2-Rock thing, I think I'm most interested in the head and cab separate. Because if I'm doing a small grab and go, it would be cool to have a 2-Rock in a small combo to grab and go, but the combos are a little bit bigger. And I'm probably more likely to take one of my Fenders or something like that to a grab and go gig like that. So for me, it's all about the head and cab with it.
Okay. So people should buy a combo when it's a classic sound, right? Blues Junior, Deluxe,
Yep.
Tweed,
Tweed.
AC30 if for practicality.
If you can haul it, or the other option with that's the AC15. The combo AC15, the standard line, it's not that bad.
Right. And you should buy a head all other times? Is that what you're saying?
No, not all other times.
What about a Boss Katana?
Yeah, Boss Katana. If it's going to be your grab and go, and you just want to toss in the car and not worry about it, get the combo. If you're wanting a little more flexibility, because the head, you can play with the little speakers that are in it. You can just use that. You can plug it into a cab and do different things. If you're wanting it for the flexibility reasons, buy the head.
Okay.
I think it's kind of depending on what you're doing with it. Some things are like a given. That's what I mean. Some things are a given. Tweed Deluxe, I want the combo.
Well, there's not really any other options. They did make head and cab or combo. No, head and cab for a little bit, but
Yeah, and different companies make different versions of that stuff, right? There's, it's kind of like the Sir Ombre they've got out there. They've got a head version, and then they've got the combo version of it. I would get that in the combo version all day long.
okay.
But yeah, there's gimmies like that. But then whenever you get to the option where it's like, well, there's not a classic stance on this one way or the other, that's when I think you start moving into practicality.
Mm-hmm. I would say that's true for someone who likes classic sounds.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are like, I want to tweak this a little bit, it's almost always better to go
Head and cab.
head and cab.
Head and cab all day long. If you're one to like tweak, try different speakers, try different cabinets, something that's less classic, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that falls under the practicality kind of.
And this is very generalized. I hope you all know that. Like, you do what is best for your situation. Maybe you don't have a combo and, you need one for a 2-Rock sound, and so that's what you grab. I think a lot of it comes into play with what you currently have, too.
I can see 2-Rocks both ways.
Yeah.
I can see Two Rocks both ways.
I can see a lot of Dr. ZMs both ways.
Yeah, I can too. Especially since so many of them's like Vox kind of inspired. I can definitely see head and cab, but I can really see a lot of
Matchless, I can see both ways.
Yeah, Matchless is tough too. A lot of companies I see both ways. It's the classic stuff that I think I'm more like, oh, I for sure would get it this way.
Okay.
But yeah, what do you guys think? We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.